I'll guide you how do you create a new GKE cluster using GCP CLI command. I'll show you in the lab as I mentioned all the steps here. Let's discuss all the steps first. Then I will switch to the GCP console web page. Guys, as you can see here, in the first step, you can launch your Cloud Shell terminal window in the GCP console portal. After successfully launch your Cloud Shell terminal window, then you can config or set your project ID. As you can see here, this is the syntax for config your project ID. As I mentioned here guys, same command you can execute in your terminal window, I mean Cloud Shell terminal window, and replace your project ID. As you can see here, in the second step, you can create a GKE cluster using the GCP CLI command as I mentioned here. This is the syntax of create a new GKE cluster, and based on your requirement guys, you can change your cluster name and change your the region name. Then next step guys, you can authenticate credential for the cluster. After creating your cluster, you need to get authentication credential to interact with the cluster. As you can see here, this is the syntax for authentication credential for the cluster. As I mentioned here, G Cloud container cluster get credential, the name of the cluster and the location is represent as your region name. Then you can add your region name. This command configure kubelet to use the cluster you created. In the next step guys, as you can see here, deploy an application to the GKE cluster. Now you have created a cluster and you can deploy a containerized application to it. As you can see here, this is the syntax guys. I'll show you in the lab a simple deployment for inside the GKE cluster so that you can easily understand it, and I'll show you in the lab deploy an application inside the GKE cluster and how to expose the port number for your application. Guys, in the next step, after deploying the application, you need to expose it to the internet so that user can access it. You can expose your application by creating a service, a Kubernetes resources that exposes your application to the external traffic. To expose your application, run the following kubectl expose command. As you can see here guys, in the kubectl expose deployment and name of the deployment, as I mentioned here, the type as load balancer and select your desired port number and the target port number so that user can access it via internet. I'll show you all the steps inside the lab so that you can easily understand it guys. In the next step guys, you can inspect or view the application inside the GKE cluster. Guys, as you can see here, as I mentioned all the steps, first of all, you can inspect the running pods by using kubectl get pod command. After that, you can also verify the service so that you can use the kubectl get service command. After that guys, you can copy the external IP. Then you can launch or open a new web browser using Google Chrome. Then you can write the http :/ and paste your external IP. As you can see here, then you can see your web applications, and similar step guys I'll show you in the lab so that you can easily understand it. After end of the practical session guys, to avoid the incurring charges to your Google Cloud account for the resources used on this page, so that you can delete your application using kubectl delete command. I'll show you all the steps. Similar step you can practice and you can clean up your all the cluster as you can create it here guys. Now guys, I hope so you can understand it all the step as I mentioned here. Let's switch to the GCP console web portal page. I'll show you all the steps inside the lab so that you can easily understand it. Guys, as you can see here, this is the GCP console web portal page. First of all guys, you can activate your cloud shell. Already you know guys all the steps. As you can see here, this is the activate cloud shell button. Click on here guys and wait a couple of seconds to activate your cloud shell window terminal. Now guys, just you can click on open in new window here as you can see here. Then wait a couple of seconds to start your temporary VM. As you can see here guys, cloud shell terminal window is successfully appeared here. Then back to your console page, then click on close the cloud shell here guys. Now guys, you can navigate to the Kubernetes engine web portal as you can see here guys. Then click on Kubernetes engine here guys. As you can see here guys, the Kubernetes cluster web portal page, and as you can see here, there is no cluster is available here guys. So guys, now you can navigate or switch to the cloud shell window terminal as you can see here. Then press Ctrl L here first guys. In the first step guys, you can config or set your project ID. As you can see here, this is a simple CLI command, gcloud config set project ID, and guys you can replace your project ID here and then navigate to your GCP console web portal page. Then click on project section guys. Then select your desired project and copy the project ID. Then paste the project ID inside that cloud active shell window terminal. Then guys press enter. As you can see here, project ID is successfully updated here. Guys, if you can first time updated your project ID inside the cloud shell, then one pop-up window will appear. Then click on authorize. Then it automatically updated your project ID inside your cloud active shell window terminal. Guys, in the next step, you can create a GKE Autopilot mode cluster. Guys, as you can see here, this is the command for creating a autopilot mode cluster in GKE. The command like guys, as you can see here, gcloud container cluster create auto. The name of the cluster, as I mentioned here guys, my first cluster, this is the name of the cluster. I'll show you in the GCP console web portal page after successful create the autopilot mode cluster using the GCP CLI command. Then location is specified guys for your region name. As you can see here, the region as I selected here US Central 1. Then guys press enter. Now guys, as you can see here, creating a cluster, it will take at least 2 to 3 minutes. Then you can wait for your cluster creation guys. Guys, as you can see here, the cluster, the name of the cluster, my first cluster is successfully created here. Now guys, I'll show you in the console portal. Guys, now as you can see here, there is no cluster is available here. Then click on refresh button here guys. As you can see here, my first cluster is successfully created here, and the total vCPU and the total memory consumed as you can see here is 0. And click on the cluster, then you can find out all the cluster information detail here guys. Then guys, next step, is the important step, guys. After creating your cluster, you need to get authentication credential to interact with the cluster. I mean guys, this is your temporary VM. Then how your temporary VM is interact with the GKE cluster so that you can get authentication credential for the cluster in the activate cloud shell window terminal here, guys. Guys, as you can see here, the command as gcloud container cluster get credential, the name of the cluster as I mentioned here, my first cluster, then the location as you can see here, US Central 1. Now guys, then you can press enter, and as you can see here, fetching the cluster endpoint and authentication data detail here, and the kubeconfig entry generated for the my first cluster here, guys. And this command configures the kubelet to use the cluster you created. Now guys, I'll show you in the next step. Deploy an application to the cluster using a container image. Now guys, you have created a cluster and you can deploy a containerized application inside the cluster. As you can see here, this is the command, guys, kubectl create deployment name, and as you can see here, the image, the name of the image as I selected here, hello app 1.0 version, so that I'll show you in the hello app application after successful created a deployment here, guys. Then guys, you can just press enter. As you can see here, the deployment hello server is successfully created here, guys. Now guys, after deploying the application, you need to expose it to the internet so that user can access it. You can expose your application by creating a service, a kubernetes resources that expose your application to the external traffic, guys. To expose your application, then you can run the kubectl expose command. Guys, as you can see here, the kubectl expose deployment, the name of the deployment here, or you know, this is the service name also, guys. Type load balancer as I selected here, the port is 80 and the target port is 8080. Based on your project requirement, guys, just you can change your port and target port and name of the deployment or service name as I mentioned here, guys. After that, guys, just you can press enter. As you can see here, the service hello server is successfully created here. Now guys, you can view or inspect your port status fast. Then you can write the command is kubectl get ports. As you can see here, guys, port is successfully running now. Then similarly, guys, just you can check your deployment status. As you can see here, the name of the deployment as hello server, the status is showing as 1 by 1. It means the pod is successfully running and the single pod is available here, guys. Similarly, guys, just you can check your service status. This is the simple command, guys, kubectl get svc. As you can see here, the hello server, all the configuration details is here, guys. The type is load balancer, cluster IP is available here, external IP is also available here, guys. Now you can copy the external IP from here, then you can launch a new web browser, then write http, then // then external IP here, as you can see here, guys. Then press enter. As you can see here guys, this is your application. The hello world, the version is 1.00 and the host name is described here. This is the simple application launch inside the GKE cluster. As you can see here guys. Similarly guys, I'll show you using the call command. This is the external IP address guys, as you can see here. Then press enter. As you can see here, this is the same output as you can see here also. As you can see here, this is the web browser and similarly output is available here guys. Now guys, I hope so you can understand now how do you create a GKE cluster and how do you deploy your application inside the GKE cluster. After that you can inspect or view your pod and deployment status, and you can copy the external IP address from your service. Then you can launch a new web browser and write the HTTP and paste your external IP, and you can visible your application status. End of the lab session guys. To avoid incurring charges to your Google Cloud account for the resources used on this page, then you can delete your application service first. Then secondly guys, you can delete your cluster. I mean the cluster, my first cluster is running here now guys. Then I'll show you the first step for delete the application service by using the kubectl delete command. After that I'll show you how do you delete your GKE cluster using the gcloud container cluster delete command. First guys, just you can delete your service first, and the name of the service, as you can see here, this is the hello server. Then press enter. As you can see here, the application service is deleted now. It might take couple of seconds guys. Just as you can see here guys, the service hello server is successfully deleted here. Now guys, as you can see here, this is a simple command to destroy your cluster or delete your cluster. gcloud container cluster, and this is the delete and the name of the cluster as I mentioned here. And I mentioned guys, as you can see here, this is the simple command to destroy or delete your GKE cluster, and the command as gcloud container cluster delete. And this, as you can see here, this is the name of your cluster, and then you can mention your region name here. As you can see here, I mentioned at US Central 1. Then guys, you press enter. Then you can write Y for your confirmation. Then press enter, and it might take couple of minutes guys to destroy or delete your cluster. Now guys, as you can see here, this is the GCP console portal. Click on refresh here. As you can see here, the cluster is being deleted. This is the status of the cluster now guys. As you can see here, the cluster is successfully deleted here. Now we'll navigate to our GCP console page. Then refresh here guys. As you can see here, there is no cluster is available here now. Then guys, just you can close the terminal, write the exit command here. Then you can exit your Cloud Shell window terminal here guys. Then close the Cloud Shell window terminal here. Guys, as you can see here, there is no cluster is available here. Now I hope so you can understand how do you create a GKE cluster using CLI command, and how do you authenticate your cluster using GCP CLI command. Thank you guys and have a great day.